This came up that we thought would be interesting. It says, a house may not be the best investment in the world. All the extra debt creates stress, which steals energy from other areas of life. Think carefully before getting a huge mortgage. Maybe you could live smaller and still be happier, or rent for longer until your investments grow big enough to provide financial security.
A house, is it the best investment ever? No, I don't look at it as that. Now, I think we do need to separate a house as an asset versus the mortgage, which is the liability. I think it's important to separate those two, because if you're following the Ramsey plan the way I teach, I'm going to say, well, yeah, I don't want you to have too big of a mortgage and hang on to it for the rest of your life. Let's get a house, let's make the mortgage reasonable, and let's knock it out when we can. And if you do it that way, the house can become a beautiful asset, even an investment. I mean, my home and the homes I've had have been some of the best investments as far as ROI. You know, it's beaten my 401k because of the time I bought, the area I bought, all of those pieces. And you know, as a guy who's owned a lot of real estate can be a great investment when you do it the right way.
The issue, though, that I see is that a lot of people look at real estate performance over the last really 20 years, but more specifically the last 14 years.
Well, since '08 probably.
Right.
Coming out of that.
Right. And they see how much prices have gone up. And I think a lot of people have this idea in their mind that house prices are going to continue going up, maybe not at the same trajectory. Even if it went up half of what it did from 2010 through now, they'd be doing quite well. I don't know if houses are going to see the same appreciation over the next 10 years. I could be totally wrong, but it's hard for me today to look at a house and think that that's a good purchase compared to what it was 8 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. I think the growth that we saw even in the homes that I had, not homes plural, but the homes that I've had singular in the times I've had them, you know, I'm not going to see that kind of return in the stock market. But like you said, in the future, we might see homes appreciate at 5% instead of 20 or 30%. And 5% versus what the market might do, which could be 15, 20% on a good year, 25% even, that's going to beat the real estate. And so I think you should get into real estate if you love real estate and you want to purchase an investment property with cash. That's probably the most controversial take of all. Then go for it. If you want to try out being a landlord and you want to make that extra income from the rent, just know that it's not going to be passive. It's going to take work. And you've shared on your channel some of the nightmarish experiences that a landlord and a real estate investor can have.
Yeah.
So you think you should only ever buy an investment property if it is cash?
Yes. That is the wisest way to go about it. I think people get too starry-eyed when it comes to investment real estate, and they go, well, I'll just put 3% down, I'll do the BRRRR strategy, and it'll all work out for me. And what happens in a 60-second TikTok from some dude telling you, some Grant Cardone, for example, saying, dude, just, if you don't have 30 houses by the time you're 35, you suck. If you don't make $500,000, your life is terrible. I'm like, all right, let's tone it down, right? That it doesn't have to be that way. And so I believe you get your primary home paid for. Now you have a lot of cash flow and margin because you hopefully have increased your income with your career over time, and you steadily save up and pay cash for investment property when you can. Whether that's a fun vacation home or an investment.
I think a lot of people would look at that for paying cash for an investment property and just think, let's just say it's $400,000. Saving up $400,000 in cash is going to take a long time. And if you do that in the stock market, let's just say you're throwing in, $1,000 a month into the stock market. Now, 20 years have gone by and you have enough to buy an investment property. If you sell the stocks, now you're left with a tax bill that takes you back down. You have to almost start over again. So, buying an investment property with cash would be extremely difficult. At that point, it's like, unless you have a huge income, it wouldn't feasibly be possible for.
Well, the first one's going to be the hardest. And remember, it doesn't have to be a $400,000 home. So your first investment property, for you, how much was your first one? The first one you ever bought?
$59,000.
It was a while. But it was during the bottom of the market.
Yeah, that was like 2011 of foreclosure.
Sure.
Now that house is probably worth $380,000.
But for example, you're not going to buy the most expensive home for your first property. You're going to look for, maybe it's a condo, maybe it's a townhome. It doesn't have to be an expensive single family home in the nicest part of town.
Terrible investments though.
Maybe
condos are awful. I mean, I've never seen a good investment for a condo. Every deal that I've ever looked at where someone has come to me is like, hey, what do you think of this as a deal? I'm like, what can I rent for? What's the HOA? What are the property taxes? What are other units selling for? They're all money losers. Every single one is
not a lot of ROI for you.
There's no ROI. There's only so much that you could upgrade in a condo. You can't add square footage. You don't own the land. You're at the whims of the HOA. There's so many things that could go wrong on that. The other issue with a lot of these condos is that getting insurance on them, depending on the location, some of them just don't have the proper insurances if something were to happen. Like LA is a great example of this. A lot of condos there don't have earthquake insurance.
Oh,
so if you're
who's going to insure that? Too much risk, right?
Too much risk. And so they just go without it. But imagine you have like 800 grand sunk in a condo without earthquake insurance. Something hits, damaged. What do? You're wiped.
It's on you.
You're wiped.
No, that is scary depending on the area you're in.
So you're kind of limited. I personally think I would never invest in anything that's not either multifamily or a house.
Well, a lot of
Condos
people
and
just think like, what do you think about the strategy of I'm going to buy the duplex and live on the other side?
Love it.
Have you done it?
Yes.
What's it like living next to your tenant?
Fantastic. But
do they ever knock on the door and go, "Hey, bro, you got a problem"?
No.
Never?
No. I had the nicest people next to me. Like
okay.
they were so cool, so
Did you
respectful.
screen them really well? I'm always curious.
So I inherited them. So they were already there. And then I moved in. So they had been there for quite some time.
So you won the jackpot in that regard.
I loved them. They were so nice. They were so quiet, so respectful.
Took
we
care
got
of the
along.
place.
Yeah. And it was an elderly mom and her son that were living there. I
Sweet.
loved them. They were so nice.
So it worked out. Would you do it, Jack?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at this point, I would probably not do that since I already live in a house with a bunch of guys. So I just move them in.
Been there, done that.
So it works out great for me. But I definitely, like a few years back, absolutely would have loved to do that.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, you're always going to introduce risk when you take on a mortgage. And we believe that more risk, less peace, less joy. And I'm all about what are your options. And once you pay off the house, I don't want to pick up another payment. I'm going to save up and buy something reasonable. And so that's my plan. If I ever do buy investment property, is to buy something reasonable in cash, which means it's probably not going to be within a 5-mile radius of this area because this is the 11th wealthiest county in the nation. So it wouldn't be wise for me to just go spend 800 grand for my first investment property. It's probably going to be further out.
Here's our next controversial truth about money. House prices aren't what they seem. If you remove all the stimulus and money printing, then most people's homes didn't increase in value at all.
What? Can you explain that to me? I feel like I'm at a spelling bee. I'm like, can you use the word in a sentence?
Yes. Okay. When you look at housing prices over time, when you account for inflation, a lot of homes simply just stay the same value. It's just you're adding inflation on top of it. So if your home goes up in value, let's just say 3% a year, if inflation is 3% a year, you're just keeping par. Homes aren't really going up. When I looked into this, it was only certain major metros and certain locations that exceeded the value of inflation over the last 100 years. So what this is saying is that your home isn't really going up in value. What you're really doing is locking into something that's keeping pace with inflation. And that
That's fine by me.
The more inflation there is, the more your home goes up in value.
So if I buy at 500,000, I sell at $1 million. Well, by the time I sell at $1 million, my buying power is more like 500,000. Is that kind of the idea here?
Basically, from the original time that you
I just go
bought.
tell that to a renter who is wanting to buy a home and tell them it's the same value. No, it actually costs $300,000 more than it did 5 years ago. So the price is the price, whether or not you want to adjust for inflation. And so I'm still going to I don't buy a house as a hedge against inflation. I want a roof above my head and I want to cover my biggest fixed expense. So paying off my mortgage removed my biggest fixed expense, which now I can use to invest or do whatever I want with. And that gives me the most options and the most peace. That's the way I look at it.